This is a video game I own, and I kind of can't believe that I do. I'm Bobby, this is Shiny Brain, and today we're talking about the message that I and lots of other people are sending by owning this video game. I'm not gonna lie, Cyberpunk on the Switch 2 is not really my idea of a perfect time. It's a game that I actually haven't played, but it's available plenty of other places, a lot cheaper than the $70 that you can find this thing at regular price right now on the Switch 2. But the fact that when you open it up, there is a cartridge in here, and on this cartridge is a full video game, is something that video game consumers felt like we needed to say something about. And we did. CD Projekt Red says that in June, the launch month of this game, 75% of the sales they made were physical sales, 25% digital. And in 2025, that feels like kind of a big deal because we are trending towards digital games. I don't think there's any way of escaping that. But there's still so many problems with digital games now that I think there's a really strong group of people that want to remind publishers, and honestly, Nintendo especially, that physical media still has a place in 2025. So if you're not sure what the big deal is here, Cyberpunk 2077 on Switch 2 is a complete game on the card in the box, meaning that when you open it up and put it on the Switch 2, like it's 1996, it just plays. Most Nintendo games also operate this way on Switch 2. Donkey Kong Bonanza, for example. Open up the box, put the cartridge in the Switch 2, and it plays. But just about every third-party game on Switch 2 is what's called a game keycard. And you can tell by the box, there's a big warning on the front, and it makes things look real ugly if you're a box art purist like some of us are. And the deal with those is you're going to have to download the full game to your Switch 2 in order to use it. There's nothing on the cartridge except a license to download and use it on whatever system you insert that cartridge into. So on one hand, there is some flexibility there, but in a lot of ways, that stinks. Yes, for as long as you are able to access the server to download the game or to authenticate it, yes, it functions sort of like a hybrid physical digital release game. It's like a digital game you could resell. But as soon as those servers go offline, and that will happen at some point, just ask every console before really this or maybe the last generation, and it's worthless because it won't work and you won't be able to resell it. And if you buy it, you won't be able to use it. And if you find it in a storage bin or something like that 20 years from now, you're not going to be able to play it. So the value of it existing at all is very, very temporary. And that's the problem that we're seeing with so many games. It's not just Nintendo. Also, big third-party publishers are kind of using physical media as kind of the gateway to downloading the full version of the game when you pop it in for the first time. Sports games are notorious for this. Where does that leave things going forward? And why is this such a problem on Switch 2? Well, Nintendo's proprietary cartridges are expensive. And what they've told publishers is you could either buy, these cartridges with X amount of storage on it. We believe it's 64 gigabytes. It's been kind of murky to understand if there's smaller sizes, but we know that CD Projekt Red has said that their game is on a 64 gigabyte cartridge. So you either have to pay for a 64 gigabyte cartridge or you pay for the cheaper one that was what I was calling the game key card earlier that just downloads the game. And at the end of the day, margins in video game production are pretty tight. So a lot of companies are choosing to, if they're even releasing a physical version of the game at all, do the cheaper one and tell people to just download the game. There is a plague of these game key cards. And with that pie chart that I showed you earlier, Nintendo customers are saying, we don't like that. We want full releases on cartridges. So is that likely? Is it possible? Well, maybe Nintendo could hear us and open up more cheaper options for game cards so that, maybe companies would think harder about putting their games out fully on physical. But I think the opposite is potentially more likely, where they may just decide to go digital only, where I don't think the backlash is quite as severe. Now, there are some problems with that too. If you're these companies, you are limiting yourself if you don't sell your game in a store. There is a sizable chunk of people that still will buy the physical version and prefer the physical version, may not see the digital version because the digital stores are so stuffed, full of games that it might get drowned out, whereas on a shelf, you might see it a little bit easier. I personally do buy most of my games digital. Now, that might come off as hypocritical based on the tone I've been taking this whole video. I like the convenience, and for the most part, I've been okay with the trade-offs. I'm not someone that expects to sell my video game collection, and I don't necessarily need or expect it to follow me through time. I think that we've already seen with retro games that there have been ways, piracy, to play them now, even if there's no official way to do it. And maybe the original system has come and gone and it hasn't been re-released. But the problem that I do have that I would like to see solved is honestly Nintendo. Their store, and particularly their first-party games on their store, is kind of a monopoly threat. And what I mean by that is, take a look at this game. This is Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. This, by all accounts, was not well received. People were pretty meh about it. It was the remake of the Generation 4 Nintendo DS games that, instead of injecting kind of newer elements of current gen Pokemon like the remakes have often done, pretty much just copy and pasted it and deleted the lower screen, made the graphics slightly more polygonal, and called it a day. This game on the Nintendo eShop has not received a single penny off. It has been sold through other vendors. Walmart, according to Deku Deals, has given it some discounts over the years. But if you let Nintendo dictate the price for their products in addition to making them, they have very little incentive to ever giving you a discount on some of the premium franchises, Pokemon, Zelda, Mario being kind of chief among them, the main games, because they know people will pay it. And sure, capitalism, good for them, but it's step one to a bad place. And I just wish that there was more competition on the digital storefront in order to make this more fair and to give us as purchasers more of a chance to save money and to see more competitive pricing going on. Because right now, it's just the Nintendo eShop with some big box retailers selling codes, but you don't see discounts on those all that often. So that's where we are with digital and physical games. I hope that physical media sticks around. I'm actually a much bigger believer in physical media when it comes to movies, because I do think that there's a real chance that those movies could disappear and fall into a black hole that's harder to solve with just, finding them on the internet somewhere. So I do, if there's a movie that I really like or a TV show that I really like, I will buy that physically so that I know that I have access to that. Not a perfect solution. Disc rot's a thing. You got to take care of that, but it's a much more manageable way to handle the possibility that the media you own, you don't really own. What do you think? Are you a physical media buyer, digital media buyer? Do you just kind of, find the best price and go from there? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're thinking about picking up a Switch, these are some things I think you should know.